Alright, today we're diving into the story of a kid named Chang-sik, starting from the very beginning. Back when he was little, life was pretty ordinary, nothing wild or out of the blue. He grew up in a quiet countryside village, waking up to roosters crowing and spending his mornings tearing around the rice paddies and fields with his buddies, getting covered in mud. When the sun started to set, he'd hear his mom call out, "Chang-sik, time to come home," and he'd race back for dinner in bed. Simple, peaceful days, you know? But then, when he hit third grade, something shook things up, and that's where our story kicks off. One day, out of nowhere, his parents decided, hey, let's move to the city. So the whole family, mom, dad, his two older brothers, and little Chang-sik, packed up their stuff into a truck and headed out. They landed in the city I'm living in right now. Back then, schools were called national schools. Coming from the countryside, everything felt fresh and strange to him. He didn't know a single soul, and the walk from home to school was a solid 30 to 40 minutes, all by himself. He had two older brothers. The eldest was in high school and off living somewhere else, so his parents were pretty caught up with him. The second brother was in 7th grade, and Chang-sik was the baby of the family in 3rd grade. His folks ran a small business, so they were out from dawn till dusk, usually not getting home until 8 or 9 at night. That left Chang-sik to fend for himself every morning, cooking a quick breakfast, slinging his backpack on, and trudging that long road alone. Back in those days, parents had this tough love vibe, like, kids gotta struggle to grow strong, right? And Chang-sik, well, he toughed it out like a champ all on his own. Chang-sik's walk to school was pretty picturesque, let me tell you. As soon as he stepped out of the house, he'd see these rice paddies shimmering in the sunlight, stretching out right in front of him. Next to them, the fields lined up all neat and tidy. After passing through a little village, bam, there it was, the school building finally popping into view. For the first few days, his mom would hold his hand and say, "Pay attention to this route, Chang-sik," showing him the way. After that, he got the hang of it and was like, "Oh, so this is the school," and started going on his own. When he got there, the teacher would announce, "Hey kids, meet Chang-sik, our new friend." And Chang-sik, cheeks all red, would give a shy little bow and say, "Hi everyone." So for about 2 to 3 weeks he'd trudge back and forth on that same path, getting used to it all. But here's the catch. Making friends? Not so easy. The city kids would look at him and go, "Oh, you're from the countryside, huh?" keeping their distance like he was some kind of outsider. Chang-sik just shrugged it off, thinking, they'll warm up eventually, and kept at it quietly. Then one morning, while he was walking to school through this narrow alley, a door suddenly flew open with a loud bang, and out popped this super pretty girl. She had her backpack on, standing there all by herself, and Chang-sik couldn't help but think, wow, she's gorgeous. He was about to just keep walking, but then she flashed a big smile and said, "Hey there." Caught off guard, Chang-sik mumbled back, hi." She tilted her head and asked, "You go to Chang-sik National School, right?" He nodded. "Yeah, that's my school. You go there too?" "Yup," she chirped. "Wanna walk together?" She grinned like she was offering him a high five. And just like that, they started strolling side by side. As they chatted, he found out she was a 4th grader, an older sister type. "You always go alone?" she asked. "Yeah, I just moved here from the countryside, so I'm on my own," he replied. "Oh, that must be lonely. Come on, stick with me," she said, keeping the conversation going like it was no big deal. From that day on, Chang-sik made sure to leave home right when she'd step out. After a couple of weeks, it became second nature. She'd be waiting at the alley calling, "Chang-sik," or he'd be at her gate yelling, "Hey, sis," and they'd head to school together. They'd even walk home most days, and on weekends they'd climb the hill out back, kicking back in the breeze, just soaking it all in. Honestly, they hit it off so fast it was like they'd known each other forever. Then one day, the older girl piped up, "Hey, Chang-sik, wanna hang out at my place after school?" Chang-sik's eyes lit up. "For real?" "Heck yeah," he said, practically bouncing as he followed her home. When they got there and stepped inside, whoa, her house was massive and fancy. Chang-sik's place back then, money was tight, so they had little more than a rickety old table and some worn-out blankets. But her house? Totally different vibe. There were shiny Japanese radios and TVs, and every room was spotless and decked out. Chang-sik's jaw dropped as he thought, "Man, her family must be loaded." Then her mom came out, super pretty and stylish, and greeted him with a warm, "Hey, Chang-sik, welcome." She handed him a glass of bright red strawberry juice. He took a sip and couldn't help but blurt out, "Wow, this is awesome." He spent the afternoon flipping through books with her, messing around with her toys, totally losing track of time. When it was time to go, her mom waved and said, "Come back any time." So after that, he'd swing by her place every now and then for some fun. But school, that was a different story. Things got rough. The other kids started picking on him, throwing out stuff like, "Hey, country bumpkin," or ditching him at lunch to hang out in their own little cliques. It stung, so Chang-sik ended up sticking closer to his new friend. Then one evening, he got home and flopped onto the couch, exhausted, when his middle school brother, the second oldest, burst through the door and yelled, "Yo, Chang-sik!" He looked up. "What's up, bro?" His brother raised an eyebrow and went, "You've been messing around with fire with your buddies, haven't you?" Chang-sik jolted upright. "No way, bro. I haven't touched a thing, swear." But his brother sniffed the air and squinted. "Then why do you smell weird? Like smoke or something?" "I'm telling you, I didn't do it. I don't even have matches," Chang-sik protested, feeling totally wronged. His brother just smirked. "Yeah, right. You better watch it. If I catch you playing with fire, you're toast." A few days later, at dinner, his brother was at it again. "Chang-sik, you ignoring me? I know you've been up to something." Chang-sik threw his hands up. "Bro, I'm innocent here, sticking to his guns no matter what." One day, Chang-sik came back from her house after sipping some TR Asti juice and flipping through a hilarious comic book, feeling on top of the world. But when he walked in, his second brother was already home, way earlier than usual, lounging in the living room. The second Chang-sik opened the door, his brother barked, "Hey, I told you no playing with fire." Chang-sik shot back, "Bro, I didn't do anything, I swear," loud enough to make his case, but his brother pointed at his feet and snapped, "Then what's this?" Chang-sik looked down. His socks were pitch black, smeared with soot. "Check your clothes," his brother added, and sure enough, his shirt and pants were dotted with dark smudges too. Chang-sik panicked, stammering, "Huh? When did this happen? I don't even know." But his brother wasn't buying it. "Where'd you go? You were messing with fire, weren't you?" he said, raising his hand and landing a quick knuckle tap on Chang-sik's head. "Ow! Bro, I'm telling the truth," Chang-sik yelped, eyes watering from the sting and the unfairness. But he still got an earful. A few days later, he was in class with his friends when, out of nowhere, his mom appeared at the classroom door. She quietly told the teacher, "I need to take Chang-sik for a bit," and called him over. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, grabbing his backpack and stepping out. In the corner of the schoolyard, there was his second brother, waiting. His mom gripped his shoulders tight and asked, urgency in her voice, "Chang-sik, who are you talking to every morning on your way here?" He answered, "I walk and talk with that fourth-grade girl." But his mom let out a heavy sigh. "Your brother followed you this morning, and he said you were walking alone, talking to thin air." Chang-sik raised his voice. "No, Mom, I was with her, I promise." But she started smacking her chest in distress, muttering, "What's wrong with this kid? What do we do?" Then his dad's voice chimed in from earlier that night. "If he's acting this strange, maybe we should see a shaman. You know, someone who talks to spirits and fixes weird stuff like this." His brother grabbed him, "Come on," and dragged him straight to the girl's house. His mom flung the gate open, and inside, it was all charred black, completely empty. Chang-sik's head spun as he thought, "I was laughing and chatting with her here just this morning. How did it turn into this?" His mom told his brother, "Take Chang-sik home and stay there," then headed off to ask the neighbors what was up. A while later, she came back and whispered to his dad. Chang-sik overheard it all. Turns out that house had been broken into by robbers a year ago, and they'd set it on fire. His mom's voice shook as she said, "I think Chang-sik's been charmed by something weird. Honey, what do we do?" His dad replied, "Let's go see a shaman. You know, those folks who connect with spirits and sort out creepy stuff." Starting the next day, his mom held his hand tight and walked him to school. Every time they passed that house, all he could see was a pile of burned rubble. After about a month, the girl stopped showing up, and his mom figured, "Guess he's okay now." She told him firmly, "From now on, take the long way around. Don't go near there." Scared out of his wits, Chang-sik started taking a detour that added 15 minutes to his walk. But one day, lost in a daze while strolling along, he blinked and realized he was standing right in front of that house again. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and there she was, smiling warmly. "Chang-sik, where have you been? It's been ages." His voice trembled as he asked, "Sis, didn't your house burn down?" She laughed. "What are you talking about? Come in and see." And just like that, the house looked perfectly fine. His head was spinning, but he talked with her as he shuffled off to school. Later, he asked a friend who'd gotten there early, "Did you see me on my way in?" The friend nodded. "Yeah, but you were alone, muttering to yourself in the air." That's when it hit him like a chill down his spine. "Oh, I'm the only one who sees her." Freaked out, he tried harder to steer clear, but then, at home, he lifted the bedding one day and froze. There were black handprints smeared on the floor. His parents gasped, "What the heck is this?" And totally spooked, called in a shaman, not once, but twice, to do some rituals. You know, those traditional ceremonies where they chant and dance to chase off bad spirits. Didn't change much for Chang-sik though. Then she showed up again, teary-eyed, saying, "I live at your house now." His mom, terrified, sent him to stay at a temple. He spent a whole semester there, pulling himself together, and it helped a bit. But even after that, strange things kept popping into his vision. Eventually, he accepted it. "I'm not crazy, I'm just seeing stuff." Still, it scared him so bad that even through high school, he'd sleep right next to his brother or mom for comfort. And that's where we wrap up part 1 of Chang-sik's story. But hold up, it's not over yet. His creepy adventures are far from done, so stick around for part 2